The first thing I wanted to talk about, and you heard the story there in the news with Ron Otto, and this is one of those weird, sort of odd coincidences, I guess. I don't know. So when I was growing up, three of my friends, we all had Dayton Daily News routes. And a friend of mine had a route in one particular neighborhood close to where we lived. And sometimes, if he was, playing sports or had band practice or something, he would ask me to do his route. So I'm like, fine, sure. So I would do his paper route, and there was a guy that lived on the paper route who was my age, and I knew who he was because he was a year ahead of me. And he went to the same elementary school as me. He went to the same junior high. He went to the same high school. And in fact, we eventually became teammates. We played soccer together. And we had this little group of kids that were on this team. And we were called Captain Crunch and the Funky Bunch. Because the soccer team, I'll just say it, we were all kind of a bunch of rejects. And what I mean by that is that we didn't make the school team, right? We tried out, we didn't make the school team. So all of us rejects, if you will, put this team together, and we would go out and we would play. Well, today I was talking to somebody here at the station, and she says, "Hey, you went to Beaver Creek, right?" I said, yeah. She goes, "How old are you?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be 55 in a week." And she says, "Do you know about the guy who was shot and killed in Beaver Creek last week?" And I said, "I didn't hear anything about this. This is my hometown. How did I miss this?" So she couldn't remember his name. So I was sitting at my desk, so I Googled it real quick. And I was floored to see that the person who was shot and killed, Michael Corrigan, was the person that I played soccer with and used to deliver papers to his house. And like I said, I'm going to be 55 next week. And I have never in my life known someone who was murdered. And it's a strange feeling. And I'm not comparing this experience to his family and close friends and loved ones. I'm not going to say that, that he and I were great friends. I mean, we knew each other. We were teammates. We were cordial to each other. He would sometimes comment on things on my Facebook, especially when it would be about soccer, because that Captain Crunch and the Funky Bunch team had some real characters on it. And we had a lot of fun. And sometimes pictures would pop up, or an old team roster or something. And all of us would sort of comment and be like, "Oh, you remember when that happened? Or do you remember this?" But this is the first time I've ever experienced something like that. I've never had anybody in my life. I've had friends who have passed away and classmates. I've had, I've known people who have taken their own life, but I've never had this before. And it's a terribly tragic story. And I just didn't hear about it. And I guess the Beaver Creek police were sort of tight-lipped with it because they weren't sure exactly what happened last Thursday night at his home in Beaver Creek. But then yesterday they put out a release and said, "This is what we think happened, and we're looking for this woman." Well, this morning they found this woman, as you heard in Ron's newscast, Janelle Nelson, 52. She was arrested in Omaha, Nebraska. I have no idea what the connection was between she and Michael Corrigan, this old friend of mine from years and years ago. But it's just so sad and devastating. And immediately I went to, Facebook, because that's where we all used to connect, and saw this. And it's such a weird feeling. It's such a weird feeling. A couple of times, like I said, he messaged me about certain things on my Facebook, and I know that he at one time listened to the show or at least acknowledged the show. So I don't know if he was a regular listener, but just, there's great great benefits from doing a radio show in the town that you grew up in, Dayton. But then there's those moments like this where you have such a tight connection to the community and many of the people that you still have friends who live here. And when something like this happens, if I was working in some other market somewhere, you're probably not going to have that happen. You might hear about it, something that happened, back in your hometown, but part of my job here, besides entertaining, is sort of trying to inform, and I'm engaged with the news, albeit I didn't hear about this until today, so I'm a little embarrassed about that, and disappointed. But when you see something like this, it hits home, and you have to report these things. It reminded me a little bit of the shooting down in the Oregon district. You hear about this in all these other places and you report on them or you talk about them. But when it happens in your backyard or it happens to somebody you personally know, it's a very different kind of feeling. So, and I'm not trying to suggest that he and I were somehow great friends and this was, a huge personal loss. It's a loss of a human life, and that's personal, and it should be personal to everyone. But I've just never been faced with that. I've made it through 55 years of my life, and not had to deal with something like that or experience. I don't want to say deal, but I haven't had to experience that. So, I know this isn't the typical thing that I talk about on the show, but I grew up here and, I love my community and the people that are here. And sadly, we lost one of them. And I just happened to know that person.